I've not talked about this before, but I thought it would be a really cool idea to explain to you guys the Paperclip challenge. We ended up creating $145,000 of value from trading a paperclip up and up in 3 hours.
Welcome to Swift Coaches Academy, a podcast dedicated to bringing health and wellness professionals the uncensored truth behind what it really takes to succeed in the health industry with me, your host, Xenia Wood. As an accredited exercise physiologist and business owner for almost a decade, I'm on a mission to transform the lives of ambitious health professionals like you who want more and are ready to take action to create incredible impact in your careers and unlock financial freedom in your business. So join me as I speak candidly with industry leaders about the struggles and successes from within the trenches through thought-provoking conversations.
So this is pretty wild, and I've not talked about this before, but I thought it would be a really cool idea to explain to you guys as part of one of my own mentorships. I had to do what's called the Paperclip challenge. Now, some of you may have heard of this before. There was a lady, I think, in the US, and she started with a paperclip and she traded her way up until I think it was basically trading, and she traded something for a house. And so to go from a single paperclip to be able to secure a house without any money and with just her initiative and creating networks and speaking to people and getting them on board on her mission, it was a really powerful task. So we got tasked the same thing at my mentorship program, and we had 3 hours. So the woman who got a house, I think she took a couple of years to do this. She started with, if you don't know the paperclip challenge, she starts with the paperclip and then she trades it for something of greater value. So she may have traded that for a pen and then traded a pen for, like a diary, and then traded the diary, and then so on and so forth, and trading up each time. And the person she was trading with found that what she was trading for was of value, but there was also value in the story that she was creating. So what happened with me with this paperclip challenge, we were split into groups and teams. I think we had about 12 people in our team, and these were all other business owners inside our business mentorship. And we literally had nothing special. It was one single paperclip. And this paperclip we were tasked with we had to start with this paperclip, and then in the end of the 3 hours, you have to prove to us that you have traded upwards for the highest dollar value, and the people who did that would win a prize. So we sort of sat there, and there was lots of the teams doing this at the same time, and so there was all this like adrenaline and rush, and we saw some people who ran out onto the streets and started trying to physically do trades with this paperclip and find something of greater value, and they were running into like the 7-Eleven, and then they ran into other stores and things like that. We decided to take a different approach, because we knew that firstly we were time restricted, so we only had 3 hours, and we knew that we would be better able to leverage our networks, lean into the people that we know and ask for help to gain more from the paperclip than if we were to physically go out onto the streets, people who don't know us yet, and to build rapport and to do that quite quickly, we saw would be a much bigger challenge. So what our group did is we actually went from the paperclip. We ended up winning the challenge. I'm going to explain to you all the steps that we did, but we ended up creating $145,000 of value from trading a paperclip up and up in 3 hours, which I still think, I actually have goosebumps right now, I think is pretty fucking incredible. And I have this, we got at the end of the challenge, and I'm holding it now, this paperclip that is basically in like a little glass structure that I sit on my desk. And the really cool thing that I love about that is every time I look at it, it reminds me that opportunities are everywhere if we're willing to go after it, if we're willing to ask, and if we're willing to do what's required. So how did this happen? How did we go from a single paperclip to $145,000? So firstly, there's nothing special about this paperclip. It's just a regular paperclip that's probably worth like 1 cent. And so what we did is, the first thing we did is we called in a favor. And so we leaned on our networks and we said, hey, we are doing this challenge. This is what it is. We need to exchange something. I would really love if you could help us out. Would you be willing to give us an hour of your time or a day of your time? We know that, we called some people and made some phone calls and found a business coach and said, would you be willing to give us an hour of your time in exchange for this paperclip? And this guy said yes. And then we said, thank you so much. How much would you normally charge for an hour of your time to do something like this? This guy was doing pretty well. And he said $5,000. So he said, awesome. And so we didn't actually give him that paperclip, but it was, I guess, a handshake promise or agreement that we would in exchange for him doing this. The next part of this was then going, okay, we have effectively an hour's worth of business coaching. Who can we trade his hour's worth of business coaching to someone else who would see that as valuable, who could trade us and give us something of value? And so we had these ladies in our group, and they were part of a company that is a dance school, and they were really good friends with some of the owners of Disneyland. And so we're like, oh my God, could we get tickets and like stay at Disneyland? Would the business coach find that valuable? And so we're looking at what we're trading for that. And so we got those ladies, they called up and they said, is there any chance we could get some tickets to Disneyland? And so in exchange for an hour of business coaching. So we did that. So now the people at Disneyland will effectively have that business coaching, and now we have instead we have the 2 tickets and the stay at Disneyland, which is worth anywhere between $5,000 and $10,000. Then we were going, okay, well, what else could we exchange for? Who do we know who would also want that, right? So it's exchanging something of value for someone else who wants that thing of value. We had we could use internally in the group. We had some people who worked at a marketing company, and they said they would be willing to provide to the value of $20,000 worth of marketing if they could go and stay at Disneyland. So we exchanged that. So now we have the marketing and we've given off the tickets to Disneyland. Then we go, okay, who else do we know? What else would be cool? What could we do? One of the girls pipes up, and this is just the power of being in rooms with incredibly not just successful but smart people and giving people, I think, is another huge part to this. And this is not to say or that we were, like, all these people were just super rich and happy to give. No, these were all business owners who were still working and striving in their businesses and had created their own opportunities. And a lot of them had come from literally nothing. The girl who suggested the next option, which was a private jet, 2 tickets on a private jet, which is about $25,000 for a 1-hour flight. If you're getting, 10 people on a private jet. I didn't know this, but that's roughly the cost of it. And, these girls in particular came from Cambodia. They had literally nothing. Their parents created some nail salons and some beauty spas. And I think they also had maybe like a restaurant as well. And they had created networks in their community to find people and whatnot. So, then we basically exchanged this marketing worth $20,000 for a 1-hour flight in a private jet for 2 people for $25,000. So now that's what we had. Then we called up actually one of my contacts who works in telecommunications, and he does things with Sullivan Nicolaides and some of the like Shine lawyers and all of these big firms, and basically gets phones, like mobile phones, and puts additional phone numbers on them, I believe, and is able to, how like back in the day you'd say there's a phone call on line 3 and you'd like put them through. So you can do that on a mobile phone now instead of having all these landlines. And so that's what he does. He sets up those systems for big companies like that. And we said, well, would you like a private jet for 2 hours in exchange for getting set up some telecommunication systems in a business? Could we have that as your service? And he said, yep. We said, how much is that worth? And he said $50,000. So we said, awesome. Okay, so now we have $50,000 in telecommunication system setup. So not only is it the monetary value, but it's also going, who could need this service? And there's a point to this story that I'm going to come to at the end as well. So keep that in mind. So who could need the telecommunications service? We had some people in our group who knew some real estate agents. And so keep in mind, this is within 3 hours. We're texting people back and forth. We're trying to get on the phone with people. All these people have busy lives. And so we had a couple of different options on the go, but this is what ended up working out in the end. So the $50,000 of telecommunications, we ended up finding a real estate agent who had their own firm and would love to be able to have something like this input into their system. And so we said, okay, well, what could you give us in exchange for that? And we're like, is there any sort of potential discount on the sale of a house or something like that? And so he said, yep, I normally take 2% as a commission, but I'd be happy to sell a house for 1% commission, which we equated to roughly, we talked to him about like what the prices of the houses he usually sells. And we found out that the difference would be about $80,000 that he was willing to give in value. So going from 2% to the 1%. And then we had this 1% of a house sale. So we need someone who needed to sell a house or would be looking to sell a house in the near future. And what could they give us? And we had some women in our group who knew one of the people who founded, it's called The Yard, which is a kind of like a gym, a group gym facility, and kind of like Fit Stop, kind of like a Tora, kind of like F45, one of those variations, right? Most common in New South Wales and in Victoria. And we got on the phone with him and we said, hey, like, we know you have a couple of investment properties. Would you be looking or interested in, putting one of those up for sale soon? And if you do, we could get you a deal where you only get, the real estate agent will only take 1% commission instead of 2%. So he said yes to that. And we said, awesome. What could we have in exchange for that? And he said a lifetime access to the Yard gym across their like 40 plus locations or something that they had at that time. And we said, okay, cool, what would that be worth? And so we equated 40 years to be the like lifetime of the Yard gym. And based on the rates per week of what that would be charged out at, that equated to our $145,000. So basically, we literally took a paperclip. We used our networks. We leveraged calling in favors. We were able to turn that into something of incredible value for us and incredible value for everyone else. And I think that is the key. Not only did we create opportunities where we were able to level up in terms of the dollar value that we had created from literally effectively nothing but a paperclip, we were also able to help other people along the way. And I think that when it comes to partnerships, when it comes to leveraging networks, when it comes to leaning in and asking for favors, those things only work when we have a win-win mentality in mind. And if we are taking more than we are giving, if we are leaning into asking favors of people that we have not supported in the past, it does make it harder. Obviously, we have to start somewhere in terms of asking for a favor or giving value or giving a favor to someone else. And I think that when we're able to unlock that and you get inside a room of people who are all highly motivated, very driven. These guys were all entrepreneurs, all business owners, and they had created their own networks over time. And we were all working together and collaboratively to not just benefit the group for the task that we were given, but to create value for all of these other business owners or people who reached out and said, I will absolutely do that for you. And we exchanged something for them of value too. So I think that this is a really cool story because it's kind of a pinch me moment for when I was going through this task and I was so in the thick of it and I was so invested and I'm like, let's call these people and let's do these things and, make this happen and whatnot. And when you zoom out and I think about it now, I think like, that's fucking incredible. The fact that we got 12 people in a room, we had a paperclip, and then we turned that into $145,000 worth of value that we were able to exchange to, I think it was like 8 to 10 different people across that time, because we were, firstly, we asked, we got out of our own way. Like, a lot of things come up when you're asked to do these sorts of things, like, am I good enough? Am I going to be bugging this person? Like, is it weird to call that person? It's like, well, I know this person owes me a favor. Like, I'd love to, bring them into it. And then also the other part of this is telling the story. So every person who we got on the phone, every person who, whether they embarked on it with us or they said no, we basically talked them on this story, told them through this story, and we said, hey, this is what's going on. And normally, if you walk up to someone in the street, or if you call a mate and you say, hey, I got a paperclip, can you give me $5,000 worth of business coaching? They'd be like, no. Like, what do you mean? Are you serious? But when you are able to say, hey, we have this mission, and in the next 3 hours, we're attempting to turn this paperclip into something incredibly fucking valuable. We would love you to come and be a part of this journey with us, and we will walk you every step of the way, and we want to give you something back as well. And when we were able to articulate that and bring them along for the ride, they were so much more willing and excited by being able to be part of this with us, and to help us and to support us through creating this value that we did. And we ended up, yeah, we ended up getting a bottle of pretty expensive champagne, as like, that was our prize for winning. But I think the glory was something that was definitely far superior than the champagne. And I really, really love that I have a physical paperclip that sits on my desk. So every time I don't believe in myself, or I tell myself I can't do something, or I'm struggling, this reminder that is physically there is one that is so impactful to me, and was such an important moment for me to get out of my own way, and for me to help others in creating value. And really, I think that's what business is about. I think that so many of us try to go on this business journey alone. So many of us try to bang our head up against brick walls, try to figure it out ourselves. We try to, be in isolation. We try to, we avoid asking for help sometimes. We, feel embarrassed by that. But as the group who was able to create the most value from the paperclip, what I noticed we did that other groups didn't is that we were more willing to ask for help. We were more willing to lean on the people who have helped us in the past, and who we've helped in the past, to be able to support and collaborate so we can all grow together. And I think that if you're thinking about partnerships and you're thinking about partnering with other businesses, I think that the thing that most people get wrong is that they think about what's in it for them. They think about, well, how can I benefit from this? What do I get from this? And another thing that this business mentor has said to me is, why the fuck would I work with you? And I mean, a little bit tongue in cheek, but I really do, I do get it. And I think that it's really important for us to be able to bring value. And no, we may not have the same money, the same resources, the same industry experience, but we absolutely do have our own value that we bring to the table. And even if that value is not our own, but that value is in, hey, I know someone who could help you. And that could be all that is needed, is a link, is a connection, is setting someone up with another human who could help them. And then there is the exchange of value, and you become the glue in your circle, in your network of, I know someone for that. Let me help you with this. Let me find someone about that. Let me do some research for you. Let me do all the, and then when we start expanding and we get out of survival mode where we're stressed and it's all about us, and we kind of think about us, and we start to expand and we start to grow, and then our own backyard is looked after, I think that's when we can truly start to look after others, and then they water our grass and we water theirs, and then we both have incredibly green grass in in our life relationships, in the money that we do have, in the value that we are creating in the world. And I know that the most successful people that I see in the world, we're talking like Richard Branson-esque, Elon Musk-esque, they are typically not using any of their own money, even though they have quite a lot of it. They are leaning on the partners and the networks that they have, and they're also asking a lot of the times for help, for outsource, for who has the skills, who has the knowledge, because oftentimes they may not, but they also have a network, and they also started off with nothing, and they are also just two wildly successful versions of what is possible. And even in our own circles, I think, we probably all know people in our industry who tend to be a little bit better, or, our friends or other business owners who are a little bit better at this than maybe we are. And I noticed this early on too, when I was, coaching world champion bodybuilder. Like, I didn't get that network without creating value for someone else who did know her. And so I wasn't expecting to go and waltz in and be training a world champion bodybuilder. But what I did is I created a ton of value for one of my clients. And she was working with this bodybuilder. And she said, "You need to go and train with and work with Xenia." And just as a result of adding value and giving more than we're taking, and making sure we're always going above and beyond, these opportunities do come. And I love almost treating it like partnerships or relationships or network building like a game, because creating a paperclip into $145,000 is pretty wild. And it was also just a game. And the game of business is also just a game. And it can help a lot of people. It can help us create financial freedom in our lives. And it can be something that's really worthwhile, rewarding, and fun. And I think sometimes we miss those things. So today's episode was just a little bit about, some little stories inside my life, and what I've been doing behind the scenes that I don't often talk about, um, in the hopes that this has given you some thoughts on partnerships, on asking for help, on creating, and how important it is to create a network to be able to lean on, and to be able to go to and ask for help and to give value to. And all of these things are very critical skills that I have found will dramatically improve and fast track your business success. So I hope that was helpful. I hope you enjoyed the story. That's 100% true, by the way. I made none of that up. That's exactly what happened. And yeah, it's an incredible little moment that I'm really happy to share with you.
I have a tiny favor to ask of you, and that is to just hit that subscribe button if you have not done it yet. If you've made it this far, then I hope that this has been valuable for you and for us to get more incredible guests in front of your earlobes and faces. If you're watching us on YouTube, then please do that now. And if you have any feedback or suggestions for me, or something that was a golden nugget that really stood out to you in this episode, I would absolutely love if you flicked me a message over on Instagram at Xenia Wood Official. Until next episode, and in whatever you do, move swiftly.